we will be making a big mistake if we do not involve the youth at every stage, because after all, it is their future. Our future, yes, but more their future.
Clearly, the African Union believes that the youth have to be the main actors and the main beneficiaries of all our programs. This is the best investment on the future that one could make.
Peace and security, especially mediation, has been something that's left to sort of people with a lot of experience, the more seasoned diplomats and people who have been working in these fields and these areas for a very long time. But one of the things we see in our continent, in the continent of Africa, is that conflicts are changing, and the nature of insecurity, even if it's not conflict or war, is also changing. And the way it affects young people is also, it has a huge impact on young people.
Especially the demography in Africa, where the young generation really is the most dominant generation. You need to involve them, you need to make them do what they are quite capable of doing, because they, more than anyone else, have a vested interest in securing peace.
The youth, which are usually characterized by their enthusiasm, the way they want things to happen, and they want them to happen immediately. They don't necessarily have the patience to wait for things to mature.
When there is instability, things like unemployment, and what do you do with a large population of young people? There's always, young people are always pointed at as they're the ones who will disrupt, they're the ones who will cause more instability, they're the ones who will fight. But what are some of the things that young people envision in a peaceful state or a peaceful society? Do we know? Have we been asked?
The experience of the Arab Spring would have said something, that really you need to involve the young people. And in fairness, in many of our countries, this process of involvement has begun. But I think it's also important for the youth to understand that they have to work together, they have to learn from the experiences, and the generational gap needs to be overcome.
Because eventually there will be a need to transfer knowledge. There will be a need to pass on the baton. Which is a challenge in our continent, I feel, that we have few examples where the baton has been passed on to the next generation.
You look in the context of Africa, it is extremely difficult from the youth of one country to travel to another country because the infrastructure has not been developed and it's very expensive to travel. So we have to find mechanisms of the exchange of experience, the exchange of perspective. Because we talk at the level of the African Union about the unity of the people, and yet the divide is infrastructural, in which it is so difficult for a majority of the people to interact with one another across the continent.
Just how different my university education could have been, or would have been, and the different appreciation I would have had for our continental institution if I had learned about it in the classroom. So I think there's also a deliberate need to create lesson plans, to create some sort of curriculum around teaching on the African Union.
I believe very much in the empowerment of people, and that's how we made it. If you can recognize the golden rule and empower people, my dear, they perform the miracle. Whether they're from Iceland or Ghana or Zimbabwe, wherever they come from. Empowerment is so important. And this is the one area that the youth are most prepared for. Because the youth do not hope in the negative sense and pray and wish. They are energized enough and they have the capacity to determine to do. I've been young before, but some of us, as we grow older, we lose sight of these things.
For a short time, the leaders should get out of the authority and power seats and go down to the people, because that's where you'll know exactly what's going on and why it's going on. I believe that no one wants to live in conflict, and I believe that one man being the president of a country is not going to bring peace.
It's important that we do not treat the youth as if to say that this is what you want, take it and go, but rather to include them in how they talk about what they want. And the reason is because the generation of youth today is using social media that the middle generation and the elders have never understood and can never use as the current generation. And so their demands go beyond the basic human needs that we often have talked about. Their demands are articulated in a more forceful way, and they have a capacity for good social mobilization. And if we do not integrate them and understand very clearly what this means, we might be presumptuous into thinking that we are trying to address the concerns of the youth, when as a matter of fact, one of the concerns is not what we give them, but it's how they are part of and how they are sitting there in being part of the processes of addressing their future.
The social media has taken Africa by storm, especially among the young people. The truth is, people of my age, we are very slow. But my son and my daughter, they are absolutely up to it. And so really, the social media in Africa is the thing as far as the young generation is concerned. And in order to cope, it's very vital that the older generation also, or the, in the between generation also, has got to be involved. And to make it a point, not only to know what is going on, but to be able to use it.
I always speak of a notion of people and spaces. If other spaces are closed, then people will find a space to express themselves. Previously it was the street, because I think now it's the internet and social media, and that is where we call it our urban. It's sort of a playground, because that is where we express themselves, uninhibited and beyond borders, beyond national state control, beyond hierarchies, beyond adults. There's no age. I mean, if I'm tweeting to a friend of mine, I don't care how old he is. It's about ideas. It's about exchange of ideas, and that is youth. Youth is about exchange, dialogue, euphoria, sadness. It's about emotions, and I think that's what you see. Everything on social media is about instances. It's about what is trending, what is new, what are we talking about, and it cuts across personal, political, social, cultural. It's across the board, and that's the interesting bit, and that's where I see perhaps social media could be an interesting ground to engage young people on content issues and not necessarily on very emotive issues.